Russia, the largest country by landmass, faces economic challenges as most of its GDP is concentrated in the western region. This economic disparity has been a persistent issue for Russian leaders. Recent events, such as the invasion of Ukraine and the rise of Russian separatists, have raised concerns about the stability of the Russian state. To understand Russia's current dilemma, it's essential to trace its historical roots. Russia's history, like any other nation's, is complex. Moscow, once a peaceful city, faced invasion and Mongol rule in the 1200s, teaching Russians the difficulty of protecting their core due to the lack of natural barriers. After Ivan the Great's liberation of Russia from the Mongols, the Russian Empire expanded, including Siberia under Ivan the Terrible's rule. However, internal conflicts, foreign invasions, and economic challenges plagued Russia in the subsequent centuries. Entering World War I in 1914 marked a turning point. Russia's previous losses in wars, including the Crimean War and Russo-Japanese War, had weakened the nation. The 1905 Russian Revolution and protests showed signs of instability. In 1917, revolution erupted in Petrograd, leading to the removal of the Tsar and the rise of the Bolshevik Party, led by Vladimir Lenin. World War I intensified Russia's domestic issues, resulting in food shortages, economic disruption, and political turmoil. The loss of territory after the war, including Poland, Finland, and the Baltic states, significantly impacted Russia's economy and national identity. Stalin's leadership in the late 1920s brought rapid industrialization and modernization, but at a high human cost. Forced collectivization, brutal repression, and mass purges characterized this period. Stalin's expansionist policies before World War II led to territorial gains, but his alliance with Nazi Germany eventually crumbled, leading to the Soviet Union joining the Allies. After World War II, the Soviet Union established communist governments in Eastern Europe, contributing to the division of Europe into opposing blocs. Russia's history has been marked by expansion and diversity, but also by a susceptibility to breakaway states during periods of instability. This historical overview sets the stage for understanding Russia's contemporary challenges and its complex relationship with its neighbors and the global community. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union had a socialist economic system with state ownership of production means and central planning. Heavy industry and military spending were prioritized, leading to rapid growth initially, but later hampered by lack of innovation and economic inefficiency. The Soviet economy heavily relied on natural resource exports, but faced challenges due to fluctuating global prices and international demand. Economic sanctions from the West further strained the economy, resulting in shortages of basic goods, declining quality of life, and underfunded public services. In the 1980s, Mikhail Gorbachev introduced economic reforms called perestroika to modernize and restructure the Soviet economy, emphasizing decentralization, market-oriented reforms, and greater openness. However, these reforms faced resistance and failed to address fundamental issues. The Afghan war drained resources and worsened the economic situation. By 1991, the Soviet Union dissolved into 15 independent republics, and its collapse resulted in a severe economic downturn, worse than the Great Depression. Privatization led to the rise of oligarchs, and Russia began its transition towards democracy and a market economy. Putin later came to power, consolidating control and seeking to reassemble the Soviet Union. Today, Russia faces challenges, including a war in Ukraine, economic struggles, and growing calls for autonomy from various regions. The Kremlin's stability relies on elite support, and any signs of weakness could lead to political upheaval. The collapse of Russia could have global implications, particularly concerning its nuclear arsenal and energy supplies to China. Superpowers like the USA, China, and the EU have vested interests in the region, making the situation complex and uncertain. In July 2008, China and Russia signed an additional Sino-Russian borderline agreement in Beijing, marking the acceptance of the demarcation of the eastern portion of the Chinese-Russian border. This agreement included the Chinese ownership of another island and a half, It was a significant step in resolving one of the few border conflicts in history through mutual agreement. This resolution helped improve diplomatic relations between Russia and China, making them crucial trading partners. Then transitions to the Ukraine-Russia border dispute, which has deep historical roots dating back to the Soviet Union's dissolution in 1991. The conflict escalated in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea, leading to global condemnation and economic sanctions against Russia. The annexation was followed by Russian support for separatists in eastern Ukraine, resulting in ongoing tensions and military confrontations. Qatar is capitalizing on the Ukraine conflict by becoming a significant supplier of natural gas to Europe and China, benefiting from the decline in Russia's influence. Qatar's strategic position in the natural gas market is helping it strengthen international relations and boost its economy. Russia's population crisis, characterized by a long-term decline in population due to factors such as low birth rates, immigration of skilled workers, and the impact of the Ukraine conflict. This demographic challenge poses economic and geopolitical risks for Russia's future. The dynamics in Northern Europe, particularly concerning Finland and Sweden's potential NATO membership, highlight the impact of the war on Russia's trust and demographics, with a decrease in birth rates and significant casualties among Russian troops. The financial strain caused by sanctions and the resistance in Ukraine is also emphasized. The reasons behind the delay in Finland and Sweden's NATO accession, despite meeting most requirements, are various. But it mentions Russia's influence on neighboring countries, particularly through separatist movements, and how this influences the decision-making process. There is issue of arms exports to Turkey and Erdogan's demands, including lifting the arms embargo, severing ties with Kurdish forces in Syria, and extraditing individuals accused of terrorism. It outlines the legal and political challenges that have hindered progress on these demands. Protests in Sweden against Erdogan and NATO. On January 21st, a Kurdish Democratic Society Center organized a demonstration in Sweden against Turkish President Erdogan and NATO. The protest included burning a copy of the Quran, jumping over a banner depicting Erdogan as a puppet, and other provocative actions. Swedish reaction and condemnation. Swedish officials condemned the protests, with the foreign minister expressing concern about potential sabotage of Sweden's NATO membership ratification. The Quran burning was attributed to a far-right, pro-Russian extremist, and it was revealed that the demonstration received funding from someone with Kremlin ties. Turkey reacted strongly to the protests, with Erdogan stating that Sweden couldn't join NATO if Quran burning was allowed. Turkey also added more people to an extradition list. As a result, Sweden, Turkey, and Finland agreed to pause NATO talks temporarily. On February 8th, Swedish police refused to permit a rally that involved burning the Quran, preventing a repeat of the previous incident. The Erdogan's motivations suggest that his actions may be driven by domestic politics, especially with an upcoming election. The outcome of the election could affect Sweden and Finland's NATO membership prospects. There is a water crisis in Asia, particularly focusing on China and India. The problem is framed in terms of both water availability and access. The factors contributing to the water crisis in Asia are outlined, including uneven water distribution, pollution, and governance issues. The water crisis's impact on food security is highlighted, with a prediction that freshwater shortages could constrain food production in the coming years. The role of agriculture and irrigation in aggravating the crisis cannot be denied. China's growing population and demand for food are used as a case study to illustrate the challenges of meeting increased agricultural demands through irrigation, despite its inefficiencies. The water crisis in Asia is a complex issue influenced by several factors. Key factors include agriculture. Agriculture is a major user of water in Asia, and poorly managed irrigation practices can lead to soil erosion, waterlogging, and salinization, reducing the soil's ability to produce crops. Industrialization. Rapid industrialization in countries like China places a significant demand on freshwater resources for various industrial processes. The industrial sector can consume large quantities of water, and inefficient water use practices exacerbate the strain on water resources. Water pollution. Many Asian countries, including China and India, face severe water pollution issues due to the discharge of untreated sewage and industrial waste into rivers and lakes. This pollution reduces the availability of clean, freshwater sources. Climate change. Changing weather patterns caused by global warming and climate change can result in droughts in areas accustomed to plentiful rainfall, affecting water availability. Land degradation, urbanization, and deforestation contribute to land degradation, reducing the land's ability to absorb and hold water. This leads to increased runoff and reduced seepage. Deforestation. Deforestation is rampant in Asia, leading to the loss of forest cover and contributing to soil erosion, flash runoff, and desertification. Population growth. Asia's rapidly growing population places additional pressure on water resources as more people require access to fresh water for various purposes. Geopolitical tensions. Competition for shared water resources among Asian countries can lead to geopolitical tensions and disputes, potentially destabilizing the region. Addressing these complex issues is crucial for mitigating the water crisis in Asia, as failure to do so can have dire consequences for lives and livelihoods in the region.